What's up, awesome YouTubers? Ryan1988 or Justin back here to do a video for you guys, and today I'm here to do my top 30 favorite slasher movies. Now, real quick before I start this list, I just want to say I am a huge slasher movie fan. I think a lot of you guys know who watch my videos know I am a big horror movie buff and I'm a big slasher movie fan. It's my favorite subgenre within the horror movie genre. And they're a lot of my go-to movies, honestly. Like, if I'm wanting to watch a horror movie, most of them are slasher films that I watch. And if I want to just watch a movie in general, sometimes I go to the slasher movies. I love all genres of movies, but horror movies and the slasher movie genre are definitely some of my favorites. And I'm, like I said, a big slasher movie fan. So my whole life, starting when I was, probably 9 years old, 8 years old, I remember watching the original Halloween and Halloween 2 on TV and just absolutely falling in love with them. So for me, slasher movies have been a part of my life, basically my whole life. So I'm here to do my top 30 favorite slasher movies, and I hope you guys enjoy the list. A lot of these movies you're going to see from my previous list, which was my top 50 favorite horror movies. In fact, I think the first 13 or 14 are going to be movies you saw in my top 50 favorite horror movies. And there's also some horror movies that some people might consider to be slasher movies that I don't really consider to be slasher movies. Yes, they might have elements of slasher movie elements in those movies, but I don't really consider them to be slashers. Psycho being one of them, Child's Play, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Deadly Blessing, Witchboard. I love all those movies, and yes, there's slasher movie elements involved with those movies, but when I watch the films, I don't really see slasher movies. Now, you might see those movies on other top 10s or top videos that I'm going to do in the future, because I have a lot in mind that I want to do or go back and redo. So you'll see those in future videos. This is also a top video that I've done before, but over the years I've seen other slasher movies that I've fallen in love with that are going to be on this list that were probably not on previous lists. And there's also slasher movies that kind of have been either bumped lower or higher on the list. And I've never done a top 30 favorite slasher movies. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm going to get started going with number 1 all the way to number 30. That's how I'm going to do it. So, because number 1, I think a lot of people are going to know what that is. And number 1 is going to be John Carpenter's Halloween. I definitely consider this a slasher movie. When I watch it, for me, it's a slasher movie. But it's a different type of slasher movie. Like this one and my second favorite slasher, there's very little blood in the movies. In fact, there's probably not even blood. If you see blood, it's probably little bits and pieces. But the filmmakers like John Carpenter really wanted you to believe that you were seeing the gore and blood. Maybe that wasn't his intentions, I don't know, but I kind of see it that way, is that it is a slasher movie, but with no blood in it. So, I love Halloween. It is my favorite horror movie and my favorite slasher movie. And my favorite horror movie and movie. Just movie in general, it's my favorite. My second favorite, like I mentioned, is another slasher movie that I consider to be a slasher, but it has very little blood in it, if not any blood. And that is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now also, if 5 years ago, if you were going to tell me what my second favorite slasher movie would be, it'd probably not be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've always loved this movie, but within the last 5 years, every time I watch it, I love it even more and more. And it's one of my favorite horror movies, and it's one of my favorite slasher movies, and one of my favorite movies, period. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, love that. My number 3 is the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, this is my second favorite movie in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but I consider this to be a slasher movie, and it's a very unique slasher movie for the time that it came out, because it was the first, it was either one of the first, if not the first slasher movie that introduced a supernatural slasher movie. Years later, you would get that with other films, but Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, was the first one to really kind of change up the slasher movie genre and to introduce something different. You know, most slasher movies, you'd have a maniac killing people in kind of a real life scenario, where in this movie, he was killing people in their dreams. And if they died in their dreams, they died for real. So that was a different take on it, and I love that. So number 3, Nightmare on Elm Street. Number 4, Suspiria. One of my favorite horror movies, my favorite Italian horror movie, and one of my favorite slashers. Absolutely love that. Number 5 is Black Christmas, the original. One of the creepiest horror movies still today for me. I absolutely love it though. Number 6 is Halloween 2. Now in my top 50 video, top 50 favorite horror movies, I said Halloween and Halloween 2 are just one big movie, and they still are in my opinion. But I kind of wanted to separate them and still put this on my top favorite slasher movies. So Halloween 2, still amazing. I love this movie. It's one of my go-to movies. Number 7 is going to be another Wes Craven movie that kind of revived the horror movie genre, and that is Scream. Scream came out in 1996 and then just kind of changed the horror movie genre. You know, you had a lot of 90s slasher movies that came out after this, which there are a couple of them on this list that I'll talk about later on. But it was also the horror movie that revived the not the slasher movie genre, kind of the slasher movie genre, but also the horror movie genre, where between 1989 to 1996, you had a lot of horror movies, even though I loved them, were kind of just forgotten, and not a lot of people talked about them. But Scream really changed that, and I love that movie. My number 8 favorite slasher movie and number 9 kind of go hand in hand, and that is number 8 being the original Friday the 13th, and number 9 being Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And like I mentioned in my top 50 favorite horror movies, I love the original Friday the 13th. It is one of my go-to horror movies that I watch a lot. It was such a creepy horror movie, and still is in my opinion. The atmosphere is creepy. Some people might disagree on that, but I consider it to just be downright creepy. But number 9, Jason Lives, is my favorite film where Jason's actually the killer. Because if you remember, in the original, it was Jason's mother. So I had to put the original on this list and Part 6 because I love both those. I love this series, but those are some of my go-to ones that I watch a lot, so love them. My number 10 is one of the first slasher movies I was introduced to outside of like the Halloween, the Friday the 13th, and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and that is Prom Night. Absolutely love that. Going on to number 11, this is my favorite, and like I mentioned in my top 50 favorite horror movies video, is my favorite Linda Blair movie, and it's one of my favorite slasher films, and that is Hell Night. It's a great slasher movie because you can consider it to be a slasher movie, but you can also consider it to be one of the old school feeling gothic horror movies, if that makes sense. It has a gothic horror movie feel to it, especially with the mansion and the setting and the way the only lighting you had in the movie was the candles. So it has a gothic horror movie feel to it, but it is also a slasher film. And it is one of those slasher movies where you have very little blood in the movie. So Hell Night, I love that. My number 12 is going to be Night of the Demons. Absolutely love Night of the Demons. It's a different type of slasher movie, kind of like with Nightmare on Elm Street, where that was a supernatural slasher. This in some ways is a supernatural slasher, but it's also a demonic movie. So it's one of my favorite demonic movies, supernatural movies, and one of my favorite slasher films, and one of my favorite horror movies, period. So Night of the Demons, absolutely love that. My number 13 is My Bloody Valentine, which is going to be a movie I'll possibly be reviewing next week when I watch it, kind of going towards Valentine's Day. Love My Bloody Valentine. My number 14, and this is the last one that was in my top 50 favorite horror movies, and in fact it was an honorable mention, so it wasn't even in my top 50, but that is The Burning, and as you can see I have a poster back there. The Burning, I absolutely love it. It's just, for me, never gets old. In fact, I think every time I watch it, I love it more and more. So The Burning, fantastic. Number 15 is another campfire, camp slasher movie that I absolutely love. And when I first saw this movie, the ending made my mouth drop, kind of like with a lot of people. And I was so happy because I did not, no one ever spoiled the ending for me. So for me, that was amazing because I went into that ending just totally surprised. And of course you saw the case, and that is Sleepaway Camp. Love that. Awesome movie. My number 16 is one of the first Jamie Lee Curtis slasher movies, and one of the first slasher movies, kind of like with Prom Night, that I saw outside of like the Friday the 13th and Halloween movies. And I have a poster of it, and that is Terror Train. Absolutely love Terror Train. What I love about this movie so much is that it takes place on a train, which is very little, there's very little room to hide, and you really can't run away. You're stuck on this train with this killer. This is also one of those slasher movies where you had 3 different costumes and 3 different masks in the movie for the killer. So that was awesome. But yeah, I love Terror Train, so one of my favorites. Number 17 is one that I watch every year on my birthday, and that is Happy Birthday to Me. I absolutely love it. I still love the twist. I think it's fantastic. And if I'm correct, there's very little blood in this slasher movie as well, and it works really well. So, love Happy Birthday to Me. Number 18 is my second favorite Christmas horror movie, and that is Silent Night, Deadly Night. The controversial horror movie that came out in 1984. It was one that was banned, and mothers pulled it out of the theaters. Petitions and everything. Silent Night, Deadly Night came out, and it was just hated by mothers and by critics. I love this movie, and if you watch this movie compared to other horror movies that come out today, it's tame compared to those. It pushed boundaries back in the 80s because it was a killer Santa Claus, but we had those before as well. Before this movie came out, you had killer Santa Claus movies. But Silent Night, Deadly Night got a lot of hate back in the day, but I love this movie. So, awesome. Number 19, I believe, yes, number 19, is going to be Slumber Party Massacre. I love this movie, and for me, it's always one of those fun ones that when you watch it, you have to have a pizza because it goes hand in hand. But I love Slumber Party Massacre. Just a fun slasher movie. I remember this was one of those films that took me so long to watch because a lot of these slasher movies, when they were on DVD or even on VHS, they were hard to find. You could not find these anywhere. And if you wanted to pay to get the movie on DVD, for instance, this one, you were paying like $70-80 when it went out of print. But I remember first seeing this movie, and I fell in love with it, and I still love it. So, Slumber Party Massacre, absolutely love it. Number 20. I had to throw this on the list, and I almost forgot it. But for me, this is still one of my favorites that I love to watch, and it never gets old for me. And that is I Know What You Did Last Summer. This, again, was one of those horror movies that I saw along with Halloween and Friday the 13th and Scream when they came out. I remember renting this on VHS and just falling in love with it. So for me, this has a special place in my heart, and it's still one of the best slasher movies. Number 21 is one of those other 90s slasher movies that came out that kind of fell under the radar compared to Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and that is Urban Legend. Love this movie. If you've never seen this, definitely check it out. Great cast, fun kills, just a fun horror movie to watch and just to put on. Like, I could watch this movie over and over again and not get tired of it. So, Urban Legend. Number 22, and I am going to give a shout out to the remake because I absolutely love it. And I always go back and forth which one I love more. I slightly like the original more just because I just think the cast is amazing. But I love both movies. So I'm going to say my number 22 is The House on Sorority Row. For me, it's creepy at times. I love the cast. I have a lot of fun watching it. But I have to give a shout out to its remake, Sorority Row, which I love as well. So, had to give a shout out to Sorority Row. It's one of the best remakes. But House on Sorority Row, absolutely love it. Number 23 is another kind of campfire slasher movies, and I just absolutely love this. So it had to make my top 30 list, and that is Madman. Absolutely love this movie. My number, let's see, 20, 21, 22, 23. My number 24 is a slasher movie that a lot of people don't talk about, which is a shame, and it still has yet to get a Blu-ray release, which I hope one day it does, and that is He Knows You're Alone. Now, a little movie that I'm going to talk about at number 30 has kind of the same killer, which I think kind of paid tribute to this movie, which I love. But I love He Knows You're Alone. It's one of the best horror movies to watch when it's really cold outside because it has that atmosphere. I'm engaged with the characters. I love a lot of the characters. It's not a slasher movie where it's a big bloodbath movie, but it's still just one of my favorites. And I have a lot of great memories watching this film. And He Knows You're Alone. Fantastic. Creepy killer. Like I said, creepy, cold atmosphere that I love. Just love this. And if you've never seen it, definitely check it out. My number, let's see. Number 25. Yeah, number 25 is a slasher movie that has a twist ending, kind of like with Sleepaway Camp. And I'm not going to give the ending away if you've never seen it. But that is April Fool's Day. I watch this every April Fool's Day. I love this slasher movie. It's different from the other slasher movies, which I'm not going to spoil if you've never seen it. But check it out if you can. And I hope one day this gets a Blu-ray. Where's the Blu-ray? It is an amazing movie, in my opinion. Number 26 is one of the lesser-known horror movies and slasher films that you don't really hear a lot of people talk about. And that is Just Before Dawn, another campfire kind of slasher in the woods movies that really doesn't get the love that it deserves in my opinion. Friday the 13th, The Burning, Madman, Sleepaway Camp, people talk about those, but Just Before Dawn, I put it up there with those movies. And in fact, even though those movies are higher, I think it's one of the creepiest in the woods slasher movies. I just love this film. So if you've never seen Just Before Dawn, check it out. Awesome film. My number 27 is going to be a slasher movie that came out in 2007, and its fourth movie just came out, but for me, this is still the best, and that is Hatchet. Love this film. A lot of people know about this one, so I'm not going to talk about it too long, but I love this film, and every time I watch it, I still love it. Number 28 is definitely, in my opinion, out of the 30 slasher movies on this list that doesn't get talked about very much. I think I hear maybe 2 or I'd say probably I've heard 5 people since I've made YouTube videos who love horror movies talk about this movie. A lot of other people haven't really even heard of it. If you've never seen it, check it out. And it is Stage Fright. Absolutely love this movie. It is a Italian horror movie mixed with a slasher movie, which I love. I love both Italian horror movies and slasher movies. I love the kills in this movie. They are definitely gory. I love the killer because he is one of the most unique killers out there in slasher movies. And it is a killer with an owl mask. And it's very creepy. It's chilling. The music makes it chilling. The atmosphere makes it chilling. I absolutely love Stage Fright. If you've never checked it out, definitely do so. Number 29 is again one of those horror movies that people talk about but don't talk about a lot. And that is The Initiation. Now, The Initiation was one of those horror movies that I saw from Going to Pieces. But what I love about that documentary and what it did not do, it was spoil the ending. Now, if you've never seen this movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you. But you think you know what's happening, especially when you watch the Going to Pieces documentary, but it kind of turns around and there's a twist there. So if you've seen the documentary and if you've seen, clips of this movie, you might think, I don't want to watch it because I know about the ending. But it does have a twist and it rocks. I love this film. I think the characters are a lot of fun. It takes place in a mall, which, in my opinion, it's the best slasher movie that takes place in a mall. And I love The Initiation. My number 30 and the last one I'm going to talk about is out of the slasher movie, modern slasher movies that I've talked about in this top 30 favorite horror movies, is one of the newest ones, and it came out maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I love this director. I don't know what happened to him. If you're watching, Justin Russell, we need you back. You're awesome. But The Sleeper. If you've never seen The Sleeper, go out and buy a copy of this film. I reviewed it way back when. I still have the video up. I did an interview with Justin Russell, which was amazing. I have a horror movie memorabilia on my wall signed by Justin Russell, which is awesome. But I love The Sleeper. It's not one I've seen in a while, so I want to go back and watch. But every time I watch this movie, I still love this film. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. I think when it first came out, a lot of people were giving this movie a lot of buzz, and people were talking about it. But ever since then, no one talks about this. So if you love slasher movies, and if you've not seen a really good modern slasher movie that you want to watch, check out The Sleeper. It's fantastic. Now, really quick, I have to talk about this packaging because I love this. I love the cover. And when I talked about He Knows You're Alone and how I think this movie pays tribute to that one and maybe Slumber Party Massacre, is the killer looks a lot like those killers. Except with this one, you don't really see much of his eyes. You see his eyes, but they're just like white, if I remember correct. Or very, very grayish. So, but I love the way the killer looks. I think he's creepy. This movie has a lot of fun practical kills in it, and the characters are a lot of fun. So real quick, like I mentioned, the packaging, amazing. I love the outside. I still have the shrink wrap around the packaging, and it's made to look like an old school VHS tape, which is amazing. But when you open it up, you have both the DVD and the VHS inside. You have the movie on VHS, which I've watched once. I have yet to watch it again on VHS, but what I loved about this is it had even more grainy picture with it, and it works well with the VHS. But there's the Sleeper VHS, and I love the red. And then you have the standard DVD, which I don't think's out of print, so go buy it, and I think you can buy it for $5. I don't think it's that much at all, and that is... there's just the standard, case. But I love that artwork as well. Definitely different from that. But yeah, there you got the main sorority house. And this is a sorority house slasher movie, so that's awesome. And of course you got the back. And it has like an hour length documentary on the making of the film. So that's really cool as well. And then of course this is another thing that I got from Justin Russell, is when he signed that little postcard. So yeah, Justin Russell, if you're watching this, if you ever watch this, I hope to see another horror movie from you, because you were just hands down amazing. And The Sleeper is my number 30. I had to talk about this movie a little longer than the others because a lot of people don't talk about this. So anyway, guys, that is going to be my video. I'll leave a smile. Maybe this will be my thumbnail. But anyway, guys, that's it. That is my top 30 favorite slasher movies. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if it was a little bit too long. I tried not to make it too long, but I love this subgenre. And hopefully, if you guys have not seen some of these slasher movies, you go and watch them. Find them, watch them, check them out. They are awesome. So as always, guys, you guys are awesome. You guys rock. Happy Wednesday to you all. As always, in with positive, out with the negative. Have a great day. And like I always say, go eat some Skittles. Alright, guys. Bye.